In architecture, we often learn how to design at the human scale. But what does it look like when that isn't the case? There's architecture that is intentionally not designed with human beings in mind. Examples of this are seen in religious structures such as the Parthenon, the pyramids, or Gothic cathedrals. Here, the enormity and exaggerated scale of the structures humbles the occupant by constantly communicating that this is not made for you. The high ceilings give the impression that the scale is intended for a larger being than a human. This lends to a divine experience, as though the occupant is in the presence of a higher power. It is designed as a tribute for gods, and the viewer's presence feels inconsequential. However, there is still some element of human intent. The 1988 Japanese sci-fi horror manga Blame is an excellent study of architecture that is stripped of human intentionality. Writer and illustrator of Blame, Tsutomu Nihei, trained as an architect before pursuing manga. Blame follows Keeley as he navigates a dystopian world. In this world, humanity lost control of their automated AI builders, resulting in the creation of the megastructure, a practically endless built environment that is constructed without concern for the human scale. The inhuman scale, seen in Blame, is different from what we might see in a cathedral. Where a Gothic cathedral has the intention to affect a viewer with awe of a higher power, Nihei's illustrations, on the other hand, have an aura of twisted indifference. In Blame, the AI builds elements of architecture cobbled together chaotically. Nihei's illustrations of the environment are incredible and largely unsettling. Nihei's megastructure serves humans the same way a cave system might. For example, a cave may appear to be made for humans at times. You may enter a space and feel welcomed by its personal scale, until you come upon a narrow passage only wide enough to crawl through, or a seemingly bottomless pit, or winding corridors with dead ends, a massive atrium, and realize that any comfort that you felt was a coincidence. You are not considered in its design. Human occupation is not the purpose of a cave system, just as it is not the purpose of the megastructure. It can be humbling and even terrifying at times. In a similar way, the megastructure uses elements of architecture, but distorts them, with stairs that stretch for miles, bridges to nowhere, and vast open voids. Nihei's surreal illustrations depict architecture that has lost all control and functionality. We often see weak gestures of familiar infrastructure that has lost its purpose. The illustrations in Blame give a sense of being completely lost, out of place, and inconsequential. The built environment acts as the main obstacle for the protagonist. Navigating the megastructure is a dangerous feat. Aside from the precarious elements of the structure, it is also dangerous in its lack of direction. There is no direction or intended circulation. Nihei's illustrations of the architecture give no indication of use. The protagonist is fighting the aimlessness of his surroundings, attempting to move forward with purpose when the architecture lacks any. Due to the immense size of the city, he spends most of his journey isolated from any other living organisms, and the openness depicted in these drawings makes the viewer feel profoundly lonely. In the real world, the concept of an environment that has been created by humans moving out of their control is not entirely foreign. Nihei's conceptual creation is a caricature of mass production. In a world of increasing automation of architecture and urban sprawl, we are isolated in a labyrinth of suburban architecture. Growth for the sake of growth. Buildings in much of America are manufactured at a massive scale as developers take the most time and money efficient option. It leads to placelessness across the country in the design of our buildings and cities, with one place basically indiscernible from the next. These places are so spread out that one can feel very isolated, just as we see in the illustrations of blame. In the words of Jacob Geller in a report on the topic, the world feels massive and entirely designed, and yet I had no place in it. Thanks for listening.